Hello and welcome to another episode of the Marc Medley Show. As a matter of fact, this is episode number 71. I was looking at my platform prior to recording this, and it said I had 70 episodes already recorded. So this is episode number 71. Welcome to it. This is your host, Marc Medley. And today's episode is one that you would think would be common sense, but it's not necessarily so. And let me tell you what I mean by that. There's been a couple times now since I've been home on vacation when I've actually been outside when our sanitation workers have come up the block to collect trash. And on a couple of occasions, matter of fact, these two occasions that I'm speaking of, I actually had a lot of trash that needed to go into the truck. In other words, on one occasion I was throwing out a mattress. On another occasion I was throwing out some other junk that had been in the backyard. And sometimes the sanitation workers, some things they will take and other things they won't take. So I said, let me meet them at the truck and see if they will take the refuge I had set out. But I didn't even have to go into that, because just the fact that I was there, the fact that I said hello, the fact that I offered to help, they were more than willing to take whatever I had put out there. On one occasion, the young man that was loading the truck said, if you could just get us a bottle of water. Now, it was 3 of them, so I quickly ran back in the house and I got all 3 of them, the driver and the 2 in the back that were throwing the trash in the truck, bottles of water. And they were so grateful. They were so thankful for just someone acknowledging them. So now here today, again, I had 3 cans of trash to go out, and some of it had some yard debris in there. And so as I saw the truck coming up the street, because I happened to be out cutting the grass whenever they were coming. So as I saw them coming up the street, I said, I'm going to go out again, because this time it wasn't anything large, massive like a mattress or anything else from the backyard that had collected in the shed or the garage. This was just normal trash. But again, when the young man came up, I said, I'll help you with it. And again, they were more than gracious. I threw 1 can in the truck. He threw the other 2 cans in the truck. And he was grateful for the acknowledgement. Now, I know it's their job. I get it. Their job is a sanitation worker. That's their job. But the reason I'm recording this podcast is because there are people out there, and hopefully you as a listener are not one of them, who look down their nose on jobs such as sanitation work or custodians or secretaries or any of those type jobs that folks consider quote unquote menial work. And see, in my mind, there is no such thing as menial work, because every job is important. Every job matters. Speaking of sanitation workers, and I think I may have used this analogy or example on a previous podcast. I don't know, because I say it quite frequently when I'm trying to help people understand. Sanitation workers, if you think about it, never strike in the winter. Look at your history. Go research sanitation strikes and see if you can find one in January, December, February. See if you can find one in the height of winter months, a sanitation strike. I don't think you're going to find one. Usually, sanitation strikes are in the height and the heat of summer. And there's a reason for that. That's strategic. Because in the wintertime, folks, it's uncomfortable. They may not like to see the trash, but they're not smelling anything. But in the summertime, see, once it gets hot and that trash sits for a few days, you cannot get around without having your nose insulted. And see, the trash folks know that. The sanitation workers, they know that. So while they know you'll put up with the trash gathering or piling up in the winter and it just may be unsightly, they do know that in the summer you're going to start complaining when it starts getting to your nose, when you start getting a whiff of it. The calls are going to start to be made. So look at strategically how a sanitation strike is in the summer. And the reason they do it again, and the reason I'm bringing it up, is to show that every job is important. There's no such thing as I'm just a garbage man. I'm just a janitor. I'm just a security guard. I'm just a secretary. There is no such thing as that, because every last one of those functions are critical and important to any business or household running. And yet you have folks who will look down upon, talk down upon, speak down upon, treat down upon. There are a lot of memes out there, and a lot of times I would see one that had a picture of President Obama shaking the hand of the custodian. And then I see others here where it says, I was raised to treat the janitor with the same respect as the CEO. Now, a lot of times those words are superimposed on top of folks. And like I said, one of them happened to be President Obama shaking hands with a custodian in the White House. But I was raised that same way. I was raised to treat the janitor, or in the instance that I'm using for this podcast today, the sanitation worker, with the same respect as the CEO. As the principal of a school, I expect folks moving about the building to treat our custodian no different than what they would treat me as the principal, or the superintendent, or anybody for that matter. Because again, there's no such thing as an unimportant job. Every job fits. If somebody's missing, we know it. If the secretary is out, we feel it. If a security guard is out, we know it. If a custodian is out, we know it. Every job is important. And I saw something earlier this morning about the definition of leadership is not necessarily associated with the title. You have some folks that just because they have a title of leader, whatever that may be, president, pastor, principal, deacon, whatever, elder, whatever so-called title of leadership, folks actually think that title, doctor, because there are folks that get hung up on this fact that they've gotten a doctorate, that they command and demand folks call them doctor. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand what it took to earn a doctorate, but I also understand that you could find yourself in a situation where you won't be able to speak. You can, and I said this in my last episode when I was talking about continue to take life and people for granted, because you can get a doctorate and have a stroke and not be able to talk. So I understand the earned doctorate. I understand the pride in it. But at the same time, whenever you lord that over folks because you've been able to obtain something educationally that they may have chose not to or could not have, that's an issue. So again, back to this whole thing with the garbage man. Because think about it. The garbage man or the garbage woman, the sanitation worker, think about it. They know that they're seen as, for the most part, and as nothing. So when somebody now acknowledges them, somebody now takes a couple of minutes to say, hey, how you doing? Or how are you? Or can I help you? Or let me get you that bottle of water. I think I heard the young man this morning saying, and I didn't have one because normally we have Gatorade in the house. Our Gatorade was out today because had I had it, I would have ran back in here and got the bottle of Gatorade to give to him. But I think he had a bottle that was almost done. But I kept hearing him say, I just need a bottle of Gatorade. So the fact that they're acknowledged for many custodians and sanitation workers and secretaries and security guards and all these so-called quote unquote menial tasks or low-level jobs, and folks that have these titles think they all that in a bag of chips, when the truth be told, if it wasn't for the so-called menial jobs, there would be no folks that are all that in a bag of chips. I know I've done episodes before about athletes who can't take the time to say hello or can't sign an autograph. Same thing with actors and actresses or anybody in the limelight that feel they all that and they can no longer be bothered with the quote-unquote little people, not knowing that if it wasn't for the quote-unquote little people, there would be no them. There would be no stars without fans. It's all connected. It's all the same thing. And many of my podcast episodes deal with this whole notion of how we treat people. Because a human being is a human being is a human being regardless of their task, of their vocation, of their occupation, of their job, or whatever. They're still human beings. And the sanitation worker and the garbage man wants to be treated just like the CEO. No different. As a matter of fact, again, going back historically, if we know our history, if we go back to where Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, he was assassinated because he was down in Tennessee, down in Memphis, for a sanitation strike. And those men were carrying signs around that said, "I am a man." The whole thing that brought Dr. King there was this issue where one of the sanitation workers had gotten killed. And the sanitation, the board or the city or whatever, they would not pay the workers, particularly the African American workers, what they were worth, even as sanitation workers. So Dr. King was down there in Tennessee for that strike. He was down in Memphis for that because just like I do, he believed that there is no such thing as a menial job. Now, oddly enough, ironically enough, a lot of the cohort that was with Dr. King, they didn't want him to take on that fight. Now, I don't know if they had a premonition as if something was going to go wrong, but they didn't want him to take on that fight. Like, Dr. King, why are you fighting for the sanitation workers? But the bottom line is the sanitation worker is a human being. The secretary is a human being. Security guard is a human being, or any of these other tasks that we associate with being menial. So as I leave you in this particular episode today, I'm going back to that meme. I was raised to treat the janitor with the same respect as the CEO. Now, you can fill in the blank where it says janitor. And you can say, I was raised to treat the secretary with the same respect as the CEO. I was raised to treat the security guard with the same respect as the CEO. I was raised to treat whomever you fill in the blank of whatever low-level menial job that's in your mind or comes to your mind with the same respect as the President of the United States, with the same respect as the Prime Minister, with the same respect as whatever high-level title that you want to put in there. You could put your low-level title and fill in the blank. I was raised to treat the janitor with the same respect as the CEO. I'm looking at some of the other memes that are associated with that. I'm looking at one here that says, don't talk badly about other people. Life has a funny way of coming full circle. What goes around comes around. And that brought me to a line that's in one of my favorite sitcoms, The Honeymooners, where Ralph Cramden tells Ed Norton, be kind to the people you meet on the way up, because you're going to meet the same people on the way down. While you're poking fun and laughing at the sanitation worker, you never know. Even though you're CEO, you may one day have to be a sanitation worker. I hope as I record these episodes and as I post on social media and as I do my radio show on Saturday mornings and as I write my blog, I hope it helps someone. My intent behind doing all of these things is to help others as well as myself. Because as I'm recording the podcast, as I'm hosting my radio show, as I'm writing my blogs, I am receiving the same message that I'm sharing with other people myself. So the intent is to be a help, to encourage, to enlighten, to awaken, because again, the hope is somebody may listen to this and say, I never thought about that. Mark, I never looked at it from that perspective. Thank you so much for shifting my perspective. So the next time, if you happen to be around when your garbage person, your sanitation worker is coming up the block, even if you don't do anything but poke your head out and say hello, or give them a wave and a smile, even if you do just that, I'm quite sure they will appreciate even that. I was raised to treat the janitor with the same respect as the CEO. I was raised to treat the garbage man or the garbage woman with the same respect as the CEO. I was raised to treat the security guard with the same respect as the CEO. If you want to hear me, you can catch me live on Saturday mornings as I web stream around the world on gobrave.org. That's GOBRAVE.org. I'm also heard on the TuneIn Radio Network. If you put in Brave New Radio or WPSC, if you can search it there, it's 88.7 FM. If you're in the northern New Jersey, New York area, you can catch me on FM radio, 88.7 FM. And I'm on most of the major podcast distributors like iHeart, iTunes, Apple Music. You can hear me and catch me there. But I tell you what, you can't remember all that I just said. Go to my website, because that's the hub. That'll take you to anywhere of the things that I was just talking, any of those addresses that I was just talking about. If you go to my website, it's the hub. It'll take you there. It's my name, real simple, marcamedley.com. M-A-R-C, it's not a K, MARCAMEDLEY.com. If you go there, I promise you it's the door to all of the other addresses that I just talked about. Make it real easy for you. marcamedley.com. I'm still trying to decide what do I want to name this one, because originally I was going to name it similar to the I was raised to treat the janitor with the same respect as the CEO, but I need something to grab people's attention. So maybe I'll name it Treat Your Garbage Man Right, or Treat Your Sanitation Worker Kind. Treat your sanitation worker the same as you treat the CEO. Maybe that's it. I need something that's going to catch attention. But in any event, go to my website, marcamedley.com.